I have to be honest, the St. Louis Cardinals just made what might be the strangest trade of the entire MLB offseason. They traded Andre Granillo to the Nationals. The player they got back is interesting, to say the least. We'll talk about it coming up on B-Schaeff Daily. What's going on, everybody, and welcome into this edition of B-Schaeff Daily. Brenden Schaeffer with you. It's Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. I wanted to talk about this trade. I already recorded a video for today, but this just came down. This just happened. Tuesday afternoon. The Cardinals trade Andre Granillo, reliever who made an impact last year. Remember the doubleheader where he became the first player ever to win a game and then save a game in the same day? Had both in one day during that doubleheader because he only threw like 3 pitches in the first game of the doubleheader. Cardinals just traded him to the Washington Nationals. In return, they got a right-handed reliever, George Soraniano, who is the cousin of former MLB outfielder Alfonso Soraniano. And he is 26 years old. He'll turn 27 later on this spring. And, there's a lot going on with this one. First of all, he pitched for the Miami Marlins this past season. Cardinals traded him from the Nationals. All right. Grineo is going to the Nationals. This guy has spent 3 seasons with the Marlins, but that's not who the trade is with. He pitched for the Marlins this past season. George Soraniano did. 8.35 was his ERA. So off the jump, you're going, all right, what do they see in this guy? Well, he did have about a strikeout per inning, 36 strikeouts and 36 2/3 innings pitched. For his career, he's got 117 strikeouts and 118 innings. He's got a career 5.95 ERA over the past 3 seasons with Miami. Andre Granillo was solid for the Cardinals last season, 21 innings, only 18 strikeouts, but at a 4.71 ERA. In AAA with Memphis, he was fantastic. 1.29 ERA, 42 innings, had 58 strikeouts in 42 innings. So you think, all right, maybe you could project that he would maybe be a strikeout guy, get into the big leagues. 80 strikeouts in 65 minor league innings the previous year in 2024. Grineo showed some stuff last year, I thought. Maybe the Cardinals didn't think so, or at least Chaim Bloom in his front office not as high on him as maybe some Cardinals fans were after some of the things he did well last year. And he wasn't perfect. Like I said, 4.71 ERA. Here's what's weird about Soraniano beyond the 8.35 ERA that he just accumulated. And he throws hard. I mean, that's a given, right? If you're targeting these relievers, you want to get a guy that throws hard. I just want to read for you George Soriano's transaction log from the offseason. This is according to his MLB.com player page. And the Cardinals trade is not on it yet. Let me refresh the page. The Cardinals have officially announced this deal. So there is no more to the story. There is no, this is the trade. It's a 1-for-1 trade, right-handed relievers being swapped. Andre Granillo for George Soraniano. That's the deal. I told you he ended the season last year with Miami. November 5th, he is claimed by the Orioles. So he's put on waivers, and the Orioles claim him in November. Flash forward 2 months later, the Orioles designate George Soraniano for assignment on January the 5th. So this is a little more than a month ago. Handful of days later, the Braves claim him off of waivers on January the 9th. 3 weeks after that, January the 26th, the Braves designate George Soraniano for assignment. 5 days after that, the Washington Nationals claim him from the Braves on the 30th of January. And then like 6 days later, the Nationals designate George Soraniano for assignment, which is where the Cardinals come in as his 5th team over basically the past 3 months since early November. The Cardinals have to trade for him. Everybody else that's gotten this guy all winter long has just been claiming him off of waivers. The Washington Nationals designate him for assignment, and the Cardinals end up trading a piece from their bullpen last year who did something that nobody else in MLB history had ever done when it came to that doubleheader. They're trading him for this same guy that everybody else has been able to pick up for nothing all winter long. what the heck is going on here? Was my reaction as I was reading into the travel log for one George Soriano this winter. Now, I instantly texted some of the other writers. I texted Jeff Jones. I said, "This is a bizarre one. Have you seen this guy's transaction log?" And everybody I'm talking to is like, "Yeah, I'm not really sure. Nobody really knows what's going on with this trade." But Jeff mentioned something to me that I think makes a lot of sense. And it also had said, Jeff's down there at spring training. He said that Grineo got here this morning, ran into him on the way in, said, "What's up?" Talked about the winter. Next thing you know, he's heading down to West Palm, which fortunately for Grineo, it's not very long of a drive. It's about a 12 to 15-minute drive down, Military Trail, I guess. Probably go down 95 maybe. I don't even know if you have to get on the highway to make this drive from the Cardinal complex that they share with the Marlins down to the complex that the Nationals share with the Astros. But anyway, Jeff mentioned that, if the Cardinals were interested in this guy and they have a full 40-man roster, so they would have to DFA somebody to claim somebody, is there a realm in which maybe the guy that would have been DFA'd was Grineo? And we were just spitballing about this. And so if that's the case, if you're going to have to clear a spot anyway, do you call up the Nationals and just say, "Hey, you want to swap?" But like when you DFA somebody, and this is the move that you don't often see after a DFA is a trade, but it's certainly one of the options. When you designate a player for assignment, they can go elsewhere if they're claimed on waivers. They can be traded during that 5-day period, which is what happens in this case. A lot of times when we see a DFA for a guy that has a bigger contract, they won't be claimed off waivers. And so if they're not, a release at that point is one of your options. Or you could be outrighted back to outrighted off the 40-man roster, stay in the organization and go to AAA. Usually veterans would not accept that assignment. And so in this case, would it have been likely that Grineo is DFA'd, passed through waivers, and goes unclaimed, where the Cardinals would be able to retain him and send him to AAA? Probably not. A guy that had some decent success in the big leagues last year probably would have been claimed. And if you decide, for whatever reason, the Cardinals didn't decide it until now, I suppose, that they wanted this player, then you just say, "Hey, we'll trade him. We'll trade Grineo," if that's the guy you're going to have to clear off your 40-man roster anyway. Now, the one thing I am going to look up here, all the teams he's been on, which, look, maybe the Cardinals have had interest in this player the entire time, the entire offseason. Maybe they've put a claim in for him every single time, right? He goes from the Marlins to Baltimore, and the Orioles had won 75 games this past year, so he didn't get to the Cardinals, right? Like, the way that the waiver system works is reverse order of standings. As far as I understand it, that doesn't reset. And so each time you would be battling those lesser teams if there was a player that you wanted, you were putting in a claim. The Orioles had a lesser record than the Cardinals, although I think part of it is it starts in your league and then it goes to their league. And so the Cardinals may have had an opportunity to claim this guy previously in the offseason. I don't know. Maybe that gets reported or discussed. But I'm just looking at the records. Like, the Orioles had a lesser record than the Cardinals. The Braves in the Cardinals' same league had 2 fewer wins than the Cardinals. The Nationals only had 66 wins. So all these teams, I believe, I don't know for sure when it comes to Baltimore, does it go through? I think it knifes through the league the player is in and then goes to the other league. Could be wrong about that. But if it's just straight record, they all had lesser records than the Cardinals. And so maybe the Cardinals have been trying to get this guy, and he keeps getting claimed before them. And this time they're like, screw it. Rather than wait another round, we've got a full 40-man roster now. And so if we're going to get this player, we might have to give something to get him. But this is a guy that we want. I'll be very curious if Chaim is asked about, how long have they been kind of interested in this guy. They end up having to make a trade to do it, right? Because that will supersede the waiver process if you can agree to a trade with the team, I think. Or it might be a situation where the Cardinals claimed him and then you can work out a trade. There's different types of waivers, and I'm not always up to date on exactly what might be going on because a lot of this stuff goes unreported. But anyway, it could just be that the Cardinals said, look, we're gonna have to clear a spot anyway. And if that's the case, what it says is that they don't think very highly of Andre Granillo, at least relative to what I think Cardinals fans saw from him last year and said, hey, maybe he's got something. Got beat up at times for sure to land with a 4.71 ERA. He was far from perfect. For a while, he was pitching really, really well. and then got roughed up a little bit in August, and then I believe was optioned back down. He was hardly there in September. But August featured him with 5 appearances, 4 of which he gave up at least an earned run, 2 home runs, and gave up 8 total earned runs in about that many innings in the month of August. So his ERA went from 2.38 to 4.95 over that 5-game stretch. He actually gave up at least 1 earned run in, doing a little bit of quick math here, 6 of 7. He had a 7-appearance stretch where he gave up an earned run in at least 6 of those games. So again, for as much as we kind of maybe remember the good stuff about Grineo when he first got called up, and he was so good in June and then got optioned back down, or I think he might have had an injury, right? He was injured there for a bit. Nevertheless, didn't finish the season strong, and despite the fact that he was still racking up strikeouts, that's the thing to me. Like, if you're looking at George Soriano and saying, oh, boy, we got to have this guy, we think he throws hard and he might have some high upside for strikeout potential. Why is it that, a guy in Grineo who had his own issues but was still putting up strikeouts during that spell? In that August that I just mentioned, he had 9 strikeouts. And, again, I'm trying to count on the fly how many innings he pitched in that span, but it was about 8 innings, give or take. So, interesting trade. This is a challenge trade, to be sure. Maybe the Cardinals have been eyeing this player for a while, and they don't think as much about Andre Granillo as you do, is maybe the long and short of this one. But the strangest trade of the offseason, because it's this guy's 5th team in a span of about 3 months. So that's interesting. Could Soraniano factor into the bullpen? He better, because he has no options remaining. Andre Granillo had 2. So definitely on its surface, very strange. I'm not saying it's not right. I think a lot of people's reactions, if it wasn't such a strange deal, when it comes to the long-traveled path of this Soraniano player through the offseason, people would probably be inclined to just say, I trust Chaim Bloom. He's swapping relievers one for another. I think that means the Cardinals won the trade, because I think Chaim Bloom knows what he's doing. I'm under the impression that Chaim knows what he's doing as well, but this one, definitely when you dig into it a little bit, you're going, wow, that's strange. I don't think it's a huge deal. I don't think it's like, the faith in Chaim Bloom has been shaken. I don't think that, but I think this will be an interesting one to see play out. But if you're looking for an explanation for why the Cardinals would trade a player that pitched on their team last year and did some good things for them at times, for a player that had an 8.5 ERA, a lifetime 6 ERA, and has been on 4 teams in the last couple of months, maybe they just don't think that much of Andre Granillo, and they think this is a guy that they can fix or that they can get the most out of. So that's the news. I wish I would have waited a little bit longer to record a podcast today, because my talk on the opening day lineup and whether or not Lars Nootbaar is their best option for leadoff, according to one Fangraphs website, there's maybe some thought that he is. That's in the other video that was posted to the channel today. But if you're interested in that, go check it out. That'll do it for this talk. React in the comments below. What do you think about Andre Granillo being traded to the Nationals for George Soriano? Interesting trade. But that'll do it for this edition of the show, and appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time on B-Schaeff Daily. Peace.